I have in front of me here a 100-sheet box of Ilford multigrade black and white paper. However, this box is marked on the outside miscellaneous color prints. And I took a quick look inside, and there are some color prints in here, but mostly black and white. In this edition of Jules Voto's Photo Focus, we're going to go through this box. Now, I did this before in a previous video. I have a bunch of these 250 sheet boxes with old prints. And in a previous video, I went through a box from 1992, actually the second half of 1992. I hadn't looked at those prints in years. And at that time, I worked for a weekly newspaper in Philadelphia, and I would print the black and white prints for the newspaper at home in my darkroom. And I would give the paper the best quality prints, but I would keep some for myself. Sometimes I'd make a print and decide to improve it a little bit. So we went through all those prints back in that previous video. So like I said, I have a bunch of these 250 sheet boxes, but I also have a few of these 100 sheet boxes. So obviously they have a lot fewer prints. And so I don't know exactly what's in here. I know there are some really old ones. Like I said, I did a quick look, and there's some color. So let's go through these prints and see what we got. Okay, so just real quick by explanation. So I did make those black and white prints, and around 1995, we started shooting color. Color negative film, we would have it processed in a local 1-hour lab. We would get 4x6 prints. Actually, we'd have 2 of each made. And then the art director would scan those color prints. And that's what was used in the newspaper. It was almost exclusively color from, I guess, the mid-90s on. So anyway, let's see what we got. Okay, so I don't remember what this was for, but this is Bobby Rydell, a singer from South Philadelphia. He had some hits in the early 60s. And I'm not sure what that event was. And here's another one. Now, this is Chubby Checker. You probably all remember The Twist. That was Chubby Checker, another gentleman from South Philadelphia. I believe he went to South Philadelphia High School. And there's Bobby Rydell with him. And let's see, what do we have here? Oh, wow. This is FDR Park. If you've been to any ball games in Philadelphia, all our stadiums are located near FDR Park. And this is a photo of Richie Ashburn Field. When it first opened, Richie Ashburn was a great baseball player who played for the Philadelphia Phillies, and I think at the end of his career for the New York Mets. And they named this ball field after him in FDR Park. And in the background, you could see over here, this was the Veterans Hospital in Philadelphia, which was imploded sometime in the late 90s. And here we have President Clinton. I believe this was at a school in Philadelphia. They were announcing some program. And so this had to be late 90s. And this is a similar shot. And here is the president with his wife, Hillary. Here's another shot of FDR Park looking back towards Philadelphia Veterans Stadium. Now, I don't know why this photo was shot, but Philadelphia Veterans Stadium was knocked down, was imploded in the late 90s or early 2000s, I believe. To make way for a new ballpark. And here's another of the president, President Clinton, and it looks like he's with a cane. I think he had a broken leg or broken foot. Okay, so that was our Democratic president, and here we have President Bush, the first President Bush, and this looks like it was at an event at Independence Hall in Philadelphia. I'm not sure what it's for, but I see in this picture former Mayor Rendell. I don't think he was governor at the time. I think he was mayor. That is Vincent Fumo, who was a state senator. And in the back here was Thatcher Longstreth, the Republican council member in Philadelphia. And here's another shot of President Bush, and we could see Governor Ridge. I guess Ridge was governor then, and Rendell was mayor, and Ridge went on to become the first Homeland Security head. And here's another shot of the president, President Bush, and the mayor clapping. And this is basically the same shot you saw before. All right, so now, I'm not sure if there's any more color in here. This is Jerry Blavat. He had a TV show, and this was done at a local restaurant. Jerry Blavat was a famous DJ from Philadelphia. He had a club in Margate, New Jersey, Memories, I believe it was called. And he was pretty famous from the early 60s on. He passed away a couple years ago. Now this picture, God, this was an early picture. I think this was maybe 72, probably 73. If it was 73, I definitely was shooting with a Nicormat FTN. I only had a couple lenses. This is a fiber-based print. I thought this was great at the time. This was during some type of festival. I think they would call it Old City Sunday in Philadelphia, and it was down in the historic area in near Independence Hall. And I also, at the time, thought this was a great picture. This was a couple, I guess they had parked their motorcycle and they're heading to the festival. And this is Betsy Ross' house in Philadelphia. Again, this picture dates from probably 1973. I don't have anything marked on the back. I probably should have. Oh my God. This is a picture of my cousin when he got married. They just got married at a Justice of the Peace. And this was probably the first wedding type picture I took. No, I took some before I really got interested in photography with an Instamatic at actually his brother's wedding. But this, I believe, was color negative film, and then I made a print on Panalure paper. And this print isn't bad. I think it was Panalure paper, I'm not sure. Well, if it was from a color negative, it would have had to have been. But this isn't too bad a print. I never really was crazy about Panalure paper because I didn't think the contrast was good. So this was from a 76ers game, and I have a date on the back of this of April 8th, 1978, and there we have number 6, Julius Erving, and it's not a great print. I probably pushed Tri-X, don't remember. Oh wow, this was my other cousin's wedding on the other side of the family at a church in South Philadelphia. And I was just taking some black and white pictures. Of course, they had a photographer. And this would have been 76, so probably was a Nicormat or a Nikon F. And I went home. The church was in the morning, and the reception didn't start till later in the afternoon. So I had taken a bunch of pictures at the church, outside the church, and I went home and made some prints. So, and took them to the reception to give to them. So that was before 1 hour photo. So I was maybe I could call it 3 hour photo. So yeah, that was kind of fun to do that. Okay, this is my wife and my oldest son. This was in Wildwood, New Jersey. They were playing Pokerino. I'm not sure if you know Pokerino. You just roll, you get 5 balls and you roll them, and you try to make a 3 of a kind or 4 of a kind or a straight, whatever, and you get points for that, and you could then redeem those points for prizes. So I always loved this picture because they both basically have the same expression on their face. And of course, when you're a photographer and you have kids, you take a lot of pictures of your kids. And my wife always told me, I never see these pictures because I would just print a few. You couldn't print everything. You're shooting 36 exposure rolls. And here's another picture of my oldest son. He's now close to 40. Oh my God, time flies. Okay, this was a picture at the time that I really liked. This was the Second Bank of the United States on Chestnut Street in Philadelphia. And I do have some notes on the back of this This was plus X exposed in a Nicormat FTN at 1/125th of a second and f8 with a 35 millimeter 2.8 Nikkor lens. So I believe I did some pretty extensive dodging and burning in. I know I did to make that sky a little darker. Over the years, I made various versions of this print, and it's one of the early prints that I kind of like. Now, these were a couple neighborhood kids sitting on my mom's step. God, I don't know how old these kids are now. They are probably in their 30s. So this had to be the early 70s. And I would take a lot of pictures of the neighborhood kids. You know, I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know exactly what was in here. So I assumed they were pictures from the newspaper, but a lot of these were personal pictures that I shot when first starting out. This was, I believe, at that Sunday Festival in Philadelphia, the Old City Sunday. I think this was 1973. But this was kind of off where all the festival activities were going. There was this little fountain pool there, whatever you want to call it. And I saw this kid with his foot up on there, and I just took a quick shot. And this, I know, required a lot of dodging and burning in, especially down here for this, I'm not sure, I think it's slate. And I really had to burn that in to get some detail. Oh my God, I haven't seen this one in years. Okay, this is an old woman watching a parade. Here, I got some notes on this too. Oh my God. This was on Chestnut Street in Philadelphia. I'm not sure what the parade was, but this also was plus X. You know, I would try to shoot, I like making 8x10 prints. And if the light was good, I would shoot plus X because I just like the quality. You know, there's basically no grain. And so this was with the Nicormat, 1/125th at 5.6, and this is with the 105 2.5 Nikkor lens. At the time, I had put that lens in 73. It was the all black version, and it was the newer version. The original version had a chrome front. So this was the updated optically version, also focused a little closer. All right, so here's another print of, this is on matte paper. The other one was on glossy. This is of that second bank. And I like this building, I guess. No, not a very good picture. This was from the front of the building looking straight on. Those others were from the side looking up at the columns. So probably dates from around the same time. This is a matte. I don't know why I was using matte paper. I probably got it at a good price. Oh, by the way, just I'm sure you're curious, or maybe not, but this box of 100 sheets of Ilford multigrade that I have these prints in, it has a price on here, and this was at a local camera shop, was $32.85. I'm not sure what 100 sheets of black and white RC paper costs today, but I guess at the time, you know, well, what's that, 33 cents a sheet. All right, so this was on, oh my God, I got notes on this. And I gave this a title. And I have here, Path That Was Traveled Once Before. So it is footprints in the concrete. Not a very creative title, I guess. But this was Panatomic X. And at the time, I had a Bessler B22 XL enlarger in my basement. And I would love to make some big prints. So I had some big trays, and occasionally I would make 16x20s. And Panatomic X was slow speed film, 32 ASA, or as we say today, ISO. So it required a lot of light, but this was Panatomic X in the FTN, in a Nicormat FTN with the 35-2.8 at 5.6. You notice I shot a lot at 5.6. And at 1/125th of a second. Now here, I even have more notes on this. The film was developed in D76 1:1. This is fiber-based paper, by the way, and printed with a number 3 filter on poly contrast paper, fiber-based, double weight, fiber-based paper. And I love the look of fiber-based paper, dried, just air dried or dried with blotters. Gave a nice finish. It wasn't real glossy. This is F surface paper, and I really like the look of this paper. The later Pearl paper from Ilford RC paper had a similar look, but RC paper never gave you the blacks that you could get with fiber-based paper. All right, this was a local singer. I had done some pictures of him. He was coming out with a CD, and did a bunch of pictures of him over the years. He was actually on a TV show. Oh my God. I can't remember the show. He was like the boyfriend of the sister of the star of the show, and I can't, yeah, I'm not sure. All right, this picture here, oh, it's Mayor Rendell with a bunch of people. I don't know what the event was. And so these were for the newspaper. This was of an older gentleman. I don't know. He must have been celebrating a special birthday, and we did a story on him. This young lady, this was at a club in Philadelphia. This was for the American Heart Association. I still do some work for the American Heart Association, and they had this auction for to raise money, and you paid for a date for one of these. They had ladies and men at this thing, and shot a lot of basketball in those days. And this was for the newspaper of a game at South Philadelphia High School. God, I'm not sure what this was. There's some gentlemen in wheelchairs in the background, and this guy's breaking some concrete block on someone's stomach. I'm not sure what this was. This was a local activist, and he was always holding protests. This was at night, and I'm not sure what the protest was. Here's a shot of a doctor with a patient. Again, I'm not sure. Probably for the newspaper. And also shot a lot of football. And this was a local South Philadelphia school, Bach Technical School. Big old building. It was actually down the street from where I lived, and did a lot of work. The school has long been closed, and there's actually a rooftop restaurant, a bar, I should say, that is very popular now. This looks like a play, and looks like they're hanging someone. Don't know what that was. This looks like a shot probably for one of the hospitals in front of a bunch of records. It's probably someone who worked in the records department. And here's this young man again, Richie Rosati, just remembered his name. This was in a street. This was one of the pictures, one of the outtakes for his CD cover. And he found the street with a lot of graffiti. And I met him there, and we did a bunch of shots. Actually, this was probably with the 105, and or a 50, most likely a 105, and that same 105 that I used for years, and one of the great lenses, by the way. I've done videos on that lens. But it was real nice light that day. It was nice soft light. It was out of direct sun, and it worked out really well. This looks like some type of an exercise class, I guess. I'm not sure. Yeah, because here's another picture. This was probably for one of the hospitals, and it's some senior citizens. These are all on RC paper. This was probably for the hospital because they wanted 5x7 prints. They would use them for press releases, for newsletters, sometimes some other things. Oh my God. This was a gentleman I worked with at the South Philadelphia Review. He was one of the reporters, and I did his wedding photos. And this was, I don't even remember shooting black and white, but this definitely was a black and white print, probably with the Hasselblad. And he has gone on to write some books, and he's doing, to author some books, and he's doing really well. And so I'm really happy for him. Great guy. Wow. This is at a Crosby, Stills, and Nash, wasn't young, it was just CSN concert, probably at the Mann Music Center in Philadelphia. And I must have had pretty good seats. Pictures in decent shape, so that's Stephen Stills and Graham Nash. David Crosby's behind, who is no longer with us. David Crosby, I think, just see some of his hair. He had real long hair. At least in the back. He was balding in the front. But so this was, back then, you could take concert pictures. Now they don't allow cameras, so anytime I went to a concert, of course I would bring a camera. And I really like doing that kind of stuff. In fact, for the newspaper a few times, I shot a few concerts from the pit in front, and they would allow you to be in there like for the first couple songs. Now this is a picture of my oldest son just sitting in a seat, in his little baby seat on the bed, and I, of course, was always taking pictures. There's more pictures of our first son. We have three. Because, you know, it was something new, taking pictures of your baby. And he was great for photographs, still is. You've seen pictures of him in some of my videos. Okay, so this is another shot from the other end of the court. Again, April 8th, 1978, of Julius Erving taking a shot at the Spectrum. This was the old Spectrum in South Philadelphia. Oh, wow. Here is a shot I took, and it's not a very good print, but of my first Nikon F camera. And was this the red dot? I don't think so, because I later got a red dot Nikon F. And this is with the first Nikkor lens I ever owned. This is the 51.4 that I got with my Nikkormat in late 1973. So I know I picked up an F later in 73 or early 74. God, I don't remember. Had so many different Fs, but this is one with the original standard prism, and I think I paid $120 for the body at the time. So I don't think the prices have changed that much on those cameras. Okay, this is again, not a very good print. This is with a Yashica Mat 124G. I remember that. It's a little too much burning here on the top, and this was I don't remember exactly where it was, maybe in western Pennsylvania, west of the city of Philadelphia. Okay, this was probably, they had some car show things on Passyunk Avenue in Philadelphia. They still do, and this is a shot of a Corvette. Not sure, so you car guys would probably know what model this is, but I always like photographing cars. A little difficult to photograph cars because you got a lot of reflection. Here you can see the sun reflected there. Okay, my God. This was probably on my street when the kids were little. I don't see any of my kids in this, but these are some neighborhood kids just having a good time. We had a big snowstorm. This could have been 1996, but I'm not sure. We didn't have too many real big snowstorms in Philly, but this was a big one. The street was closed for a while, and I don't know what this is. It looks, you know what, this could have been a truck stop that opened in Philly. This was for the newspaper, and it looks like this gentleman is just cleaning the inside of the trailer. This was the gazebo at FDR Park, a famous place where people took wedding pictures. Here's another one for the paper. It just says, this young lady's holding up a sign that says, keep moving. So it was maybe some type of a walk in the rain, it looks like, possibly. Or maybe not. Maybe that was just for the sun. This looks like, God, it looks like plans for a ship. I don't know. And this is some of the kids on my street playing football. And, you know, I got a lot of practice still because I shot sports for the newspaper, and I would shoot the kids on the street. When I first started out, they were playing a lot of street hockey. So I would, bunch of pictures of that. And they'd be playing football. And it really helped when I got to shoot the high school games and later some professional games. So here again, we have Bach High School football game. This was former fire commissioner Rizzo, and his brother Frank was mayor of Philadelphia in the early 70s. And this was, I remember what this was because I wanted to take a picture of my son on his 10th birthday, and then I was going to do it every 5 years, and I never did. But this is my oldest, down by, looks like by the gazebo. And again, it was really nice, soft light. And this is on RC paper. This was a shot of a new restaurant that opened. God, these are coming back to me better than the last time when I did a video like this. Of course, those I knew were from 72. These are from various years. This was a golf outing for one of the hospitals, or maybe the Philadelphia Geriatric Center. I don't know what this is. These look like cheerleaders. So don't know what this was for. Probably one of the high schools. Here we are with Mr. Rosati again. And this looks like it might be by the Art Museum in Philadelphia, of a young couple. I definitely didn't do their wedding, and I don't think it was an engagement picture. It was probably something for the newspaper. And this was a rabbi with some of the people here at a senior center, a Jewish senior center in South Philadelphia. Oh my God. Wow, this was, oh, I regret selling this camera. This was a black FTN, what they call Apollo. Now, I did a stuff. If you want to know what the difference between a so-called Apollo and a regular Nikon F is, look up my video. But God, I love this camera. It was in beautiful shape. Why I sold it? Looks like the 55-28 or the 55-35 micro Nikkor, and it looks like I took it on concrete. But God, it was a beautiful camera, and God, there's so many cameras I regret selling. Well, what it was to buy something else. Here I was trying to be like, you know, maybe Edward Weston or somebody. Not very. I don't know. I think this is a pepper on fiber-based paper. Here I was just setting up some type of a still life. I did a lot of stuff like this, just experimenting with lighting, with compositions, and I'm not too impressed with this, but what kind of, I don't know, it looks like a French wine from 1982, the wine. So this had to be in the 80s, obviously, if the wine's dated 1982. All right, here we go back to my oldest son again. Obviously, this was Christmas time. And this also is on, now this is RC paper. Okay, here's some weird picture I did. I had taken, at a community college in 1970, I graduated high school in 73, so this had to have been late in 73. And this was a picture for the photography class, and it was just some Scotch tape on black background, just pulled out. Now this was, oh my God, this was in Old City, Philadelphia. This might be Walnut or Chestnut Street, I don't remember. And this is on fiber-based paper, but it's a warm paper. I don't remember what paper this was. I got a box of, it's amazing how you look at pictures and a lot comes back. You know, I'm getting older now and I don't remember everything, of course, but sometimes when you see a picture, it takes you right back to that time. And more than the picture or even exactly where it was taken, I remember this box of paper. It was a warm tone fiber-based paper that I got at a local camera shop. I think it may have been outdated, and I got it for a really good price. And the pictures were a little warmer, but for certain subject it worked. Oh my God, back to that second Bank of the United States. Again, I was just experimenting here. I don't really like this shot. I thought it was cool at the time. You know, sometimes you take a picture and you think, oh, wow, this is great. Oh, my God, this is an award-winning picture. And, you develop the film, and then you make a print, and then you look at it, and now years later, I like the quality of the image. I like the exposure and the print quality, but I don't like this light here. Oh, wow. God, this is the Liberty Bell. Before it was moved, the Liberty Bell used to be in Independence Hall? God, how could I forget? But I believe it was in Independence Hall. So I was doing a project for school, for high school at the time. So I had to be a senior. This was probably with a Pentax. And I don't remember all the details, but this was Independence Liberty Bell. Now it's in its own building across from Independence Hall. All right, here I am trying to be Edward Weston. This is a pepper. And when I first did this picture, I thought it looked like a nude, right? Of a woman, possibly, with the I don't know, but it's a green pepper, a small, not a bell pepper, but I don't know. You know, you see pictures of famous photographers, especially when you're starting out and you're trying to get that look. Now, this one I like. I believe this, oh, here we go. We got notes on this. Oh, my God. And this says Washington Square in Philadelphia. It may have been that same day with some of those other pictures of the Old City Sunday. And I titled this one, I Can't See a Thing. So, and I guess that's an appropriate title. I think I actually have a good title for this one because between all that hair and all those people, he probably couldn't see a thing. So this was plus X in the Nicormat FTN, 1/125th at 5.6. You see the consistency here? I always shot at 1/125th at 5.6, and I was using a meter, right? The FTN had a pretty good meter, and this is also with the 105.25. Okay, now this picture was on Snyder Avenue in a big snowstorm, and the girl I married, I believe this was before we were married. She lived on Snyder Avenue, and I guess I was going over to her house, and of course, I always had my camera, and just took this shot looking down the street. No, I'm sorry, this is not Snyder Avenue. This is McKean Street. So this is close to where I lived. Okay. Oh my God, completely forgot about this picture. Try to guess what this is before I tell you what it is. This was a saw blade, and I forget how I set it up, but I remember it was I think it was a saw blade, and I forget how I lit it, but I had it, I guess, propped up so that the teeth were sticking up, and then I just focused on one spot. I think that's what that was. So again, I did a lot of experimenting. Now, here we are at the Philadelphia Zoo, and this elephant is going after this rock. So, RC paper. This was an accident on Snyder Avenue, and looks like 3 Cadillacs. It looks like a Seville in the middle and 2 DeVilles. No, it's not a Seville. It's because I see this next picture here, it's a Lincoln. Yeah, it's a Lincoln. So just saw this and took some shots. Here's another one of that accident. All right, this is my nephew. It's my first nephew. This was on vacation. We all vacationed together at a house in North Wildwood, and he was just sitting there watching a cartoon on TV. And God, I haven't taken a picture of a TV screen, but I think, if I remember right, you needed a shutter speed no faster than a 15th of a second, or else you picked up the scan on the TV, or maybe it was a 30th. All right, here's more of me trying to be Edward Weston. Couple peppers, fiber-based paper. Here's another print. Oh, I actually have details on this. And this is that one I showed you before. Looks like the print is similar. I worked a lot on this picture. I thought it was so great. So this is Society Hill section of Philadelphia, plus X in a Nikon F with 35-2.8, 5.6, 1/25. Film was rated at ISO of 100, so I overexposed it a tiny bit. Developed in D76 1:1. Print made on Kodak polycontrast paper with a number 2.5 filter and developed in Dextol. All right, they were doing some work. Remember this picture. This was my cousin, my youngest cousin, who lived down the street from me. And they were tearing up the street, and she had just gotten this new coat. So I just took some pictures of her. You could see, well, I don't remember how old she was at the time. I'm going to say this was 1973, so she would have been 6. But you could see how big that tire on that piece of equipment was. All right, this is another cousin. Oh my God, this coming down to the end here. This is another cousin, I'm assuming this is with the 105. I don't think it was with the normal lens, and it looks like it was fairly wide open because there's very little depth of field, but I always liked this picture. And looks like it was indoors, and no artificial light. Whatever the room light was, could have been some window light. And we got a couple more, and this is it's like a football shot. It must be Mastbaum because there's an M on his helmet. This is again Bach High School game, and it looks like the running back being chased by the Bach player. And finally, this is one of the golf outings of this gentleman taking a swing. So I hope this wasn't boring. I think there were a lot better pictures in this video than the previous time when I did 1992. And these pictures are from all different times. That golf picture was sometime in probably the mid-90s. So we're looking at pictures over a course of 20 years here, from early 70s to the mid-90s probably, or a little later, because like I said, those color images had to be from 95 on. So let me know what you think. Was this boring? Was it helpful to you to see kind of the progression when I first started out? You know, when you're doing that experimenting. And I always recommend to beginning photographers, you know, a lot of people, friends, family who want to get into photography, of course, they know you've been a photographer for a long time. So they ask you a lot of questions. My son, my youngest son, is into photography. That's not what he does for a living, but he's into photography. So he's always asking me questions. He comes out on shoots with me. And you try to give good advice. You don't want them to make some of the mistakes you did, but I don't think taking bad pictures, especially when you're starting out, is a mistake, because you learn from them. You experiment. You try shooting a lot of different things, different lighting, different exposures. If you're making your own prints, and unfortunately not too many people are doing that today, you can really learn a lot by doing that. So if you have any questions or comments on this video, please leave them in the comments below. I always try to respond to all questions and comments. I don't always do. Sometimes I get a video and gets a lot of comments and I'll just miss them. Wouldn't be deliberate. I just kind of miss them, and then I'll go back and someone else will comment on a previous video, and then I see that someone commented, and I'll respond. So sometimes it's a few months before I get back to you, but I always do try to do that. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I usually publish a new video every Monday morning and Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And if you like this kind of thing, please let me know and I'll do more. I have boxes, 250 sheet boxes of prints from the old days. So thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon.